Good afternoon, all you awesome people out there. My name is Scott Churchson, alongside Mr. Brandon Kaye, Mr. JD Walker, and Mr. Obi Spencer. And welcome to the Sports Den on Spanglish World Network, Zingo TV, channel 249 and 250. Make sure to kindly as you download the Zingo TV app on the app stores of iOS and Android. When you download, make sure to rate and leave a comment. Both apps are free. Lastly, Zingo TV is also available on Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire, Fire TV sticks, Roku sticks, and all smart TVs 2016 and forward. Gentlemen, how are we doing?
Doing quite well.
Good.
Doing fine today.
We're gonna got a bunch of stuff we're gonna be talking about.
Out myself.
Good. I know you were a little close on this one here. I know you had a phone call you had to take. So we had prepped on this case. We're going to talk some golf. We're going to talk some hockey. We're going to talk some NBA. I'm going to be turning the floor over very shortly to Brandon Kaye and then open it up to the two of you guys down below. But we're going to title this thing, in this case, More Amateur Dramatics in the NBA Finals. By this, in this case here, Game 5 of last night. I showed these guys the video already. We had a little bit of an issue when it came to Draymond Green last night, where Jason Tatum, after the whistle had already been blown, and he just decided he was going to take just a random run-of-the-mill average routine shot after the, out of bounds. Whistle was blown, nothing's going to happen. And Draymond Green decided to go for what might be one of the most memorable steals in the history of the NBA Finals, trying to steal the ball out of Tatum's hand after the whistle had blown and the man was out of bounds. Brandon, I know he is not by any stretch one of your favorite players. He's had a terrible finals in this case, and everybody's been on him. So I'm going to open this up to you. Give me some talking.
So Draymond, I had felt like, even including last night, well, let me preface this by saying Draymond is the type of player where his box score numbers and his statistics are not going to blow you away or open your eyes by any metric. His impact is primarily out of the box score. What is just done on the court, grind, dirty work, stuff like that, facilitating. However, I think it has gotten to a point in this series where he is almost a detriment to the team. And the reason why I say that is because the Celtics are not playing well by any stretch. I think they are shooting themselves in the foot in a lot of different ways. They continue to be the up and down roller coaster. As Jason Tatum goes, the Celtics go. And I think, Steph had an un-Steph-like game last night where, he had the same amount of threes as we did, and we were sitting at home watching the game or do whatever we were doing. He shot the ball from three like he was Shaquille O'Neal, and they still blew them out by double digits. And and Draymond had 8 points, his fantastic triple single that he's famous for running that stat line. But, there are plays like this. He's running a fine line where he wants to be thrown out. He is testing the refs to such a degree. And, there's a lot of things that he's getting away with. We see the instances with Jaylen Brown, and they're falling all over each other like he's a linebacker making a tackle, and he's got his junk in Jaylen Brown's face, and it's just they're all fumbled on the ground like they're playing NBA Twister. And I think if the Warriors, they were down 2-1, made it a 3-2 series now. Even if the Celtics win Game 6, where for whatever reason, the last 10 to 15 years, Game 6s in Boston have not been historically gone the Celtics' way. And I could see that happening again in this case, and then the Warriors win in 6. So I think if that were to happen, or they win in 7, I think the Warriors would be winning in spite of Draymond in this case, instead of, because of him or in due part of his impactful play. He's really driving me nuts.
Yeah, Draymond has always been a stirrer, the one to get in ahead of the opponents. That being said, last night he actually did play a little better last night, better than he had in the rest of the series. His passing was better, so he was a bit more of the facilitating level on the court, but it's overshadowed by this garbage. Which this has always been part of what you get with Draymond Green, just now that his offense, he's become a liability on offense when his passing is not up to snuff. And usually it isn't, but he played a little better last night, which was helpful because some of his play was setting up Wiggins, to go off and have the night that he had. But just there is no place for this. You could tell the refs are getting sick of the shenanigans from both teams because of how tight they were calling it last night. They were very quick to tee up several players and Coach Udoka from the Celtics at the end of the first quarter, where just the refs are trying to get a handle on this series before it gets out of hand. Because it is, you can tell when you get a series like this with two teams that play the way that the Celtics and the Warriors do, this is like watching a 90s or early 2000s NBA playoffs game, and I love it. But I understand how it's a turnoff to fans, especially with Green being the absolute clown that he can act like. Where you're not talking about nobody's talking about his passing after Mike Green mentioned it in the game last night. All they're talking about is this clip, and that's what Draymond does. They are absolutely winning the series despite him.
So I'm going to go the other way just to be a contrarian. I do think that JD makes a marvelous point in the fact that this Celtics team is a 90s basketball team. And Draymond, being Draymond, is actually trying to out-Celtics the Celtics, if you will. Like, Smart is a rough tumble player. He's not what Draymond has been in the series, and he's not that rough. But the only way to do it, I think, in Draymond's mind, is to go above and beyond. And he has deteriorated as a offensive playmaker before our eyes because he does just batter and bruise his body with the way he's playing. What we don't know is what is happening with Draymond in that locker room. We do know that Andre Iguodala put Poole under his arm when Poole came on board the team, and that was a big one. And I do think that we have talked about it before. A guy like Draymond, and I let me be clear, I feel that Smart is a guy like Draymond on the Celtics, but a guy like that is just do so much for your team when he's not there. We've talked about before that the Nets don't have a guy like Draymond, and KD's big mistake was running away from a guy like Draymond who pushed him too much and made him uncomfortable. Miami has a guy like Draymond. He just happens to be the best player on their team in Jimmy. So at least you need a player like this. You prefer, I agree with you guys on this, that he's less frenetic on the court, especially now that the refs are calling it tight. But maybe refs calling it tight favors the Warriors anyway, because there's less guys like Brown's a kind of rough and tumble guy too. Tatum's the finesse superstar athletic dude on that team. And if you take away Brown's game and Smart's game and trading it off for just Draymond's grade, I think you win. And the other thing about this series, though, and about these entire playoffs, which my man up there, our basketball guru, Brandon said is, and I had a question for Brandon, so I'm going to steal Scott's thunder about this. It's probably a different question. Brandon mentioned as the Celtics go, as Tatum goes, the Celtics go. And look, it's not 100% accurate, but it does feel like you get Tatum 30, 35 points, the Celtics are going to win. You hold them under that 30 mark, definitely under 25, the Celtics are going to lose. Is a guy like that a better player? My death? Okay. Then a guy like Jimmy who scores 40 points in the last two games against the Celtics and they lose. Like, do you want the guy who's going to put up the 40 no matter what? Or do you want the guy who's literally, if he does well, the team's going to win? That's a different question.
We're talking Butler to Tatum, comparing those.
But
okay.
in general, but using them as the examples.
The reason why I would rather have, let's say, the Jimmy Butler scenario is because even coming out of Duke and for a couple, up until this point, I feel like Tatum is a tremendous 2. And then Jaylen Brown becomes a 3. Jimmy Butler has proven to be a 1 on multiple teams on multiple occasions, and I think the inconsistency of Tatum is so roller coaster up and down. You got 2 games great and then one terrible game, or or any combination of that, and it's just so inconsistent. Look, at least Jimmy Butler I'll get your 20 to 30, but then he can explode for 45. And I think there's a lot that Jimmy still does from a leadership standpoint that Tatum I don't think necessarily does.
Yeah, that's a whole other thing, the leadership.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the biggest difference is the fact that that Green and Butler, for their pros and cons, they have a leadership presence. If they're not the number one guys, they're well respected. But Tatum is not at that level yet. He's getting there, but he's not quite at that level for the Celtics that Green is for the Warriors and Butler for the Celtics, or Butler for the Heat. I mean, Green is not where Tatum's not at that level yet, but he's getting there. And this is the kind of series that, like in future years, if the Celtics do not pull this off and the Warriors do win this, they'll be back. This is not a flash in the pan one and done team.
Yeah, no,
It'll be interesting to see what the East holds.
Yes,
for sure. The NBA is getting better, I think, and I don't know why, but it does seem, at least since COVID, really, the last 3 seasons, the number of teams that can win seems to have risen equally on both sides. It used to be like 2 on one side, 5 on the other. It's now like 4 and 4. It's a nice balance. So I do think that's a little bit of improvement, which does threaten either of these teams repeating next year.
Yeah, I think,
and all this happened only because the Celtics got this far because they were able to get past a Milwaukee team that was walking wounded by the end of that series.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I think health played into it a lot. And I just think just the general landscape, like, with contracts and stuff, you're going to get this shift every, 4 to 6, 7 years where the landscape of the NBA just feels different. So I think there's a lot more spread out in terms of viable duos or viable trios that can go deep into the playoffs. Yeah, I think it's more spread out, and it is more of a toss-up between teams. It feels more like the NFL, where we have a group of maybe 6, 8, 10 teams really going into a season that we could say has a legitimate chance. And I feel like that was the case this year. I mean, we had your 1 through 5 seeds on either side. We at one point we were all arguing, could they make a run for the title? Could they at least represent their conference in the finals? And I think that'll still be the case for a couple more years as the way this NBA landscape continues to lay out.
So I'm going to open up one more question, and given my love of alliteration, will the Warriors come out and play Game 6 and finish it? Hey, I do the captions. I make the calls.
It wasn't alliteration, dude. I'm sorry. If you hadn't said that, I would have let you off the hook. That wasn't alliteration, but go on.
Anyway.
I guess I'm talking, and I'm being mean to the producer, so but I will go first.
Yeah, I was going to say, by the way, Obi. No,
gotta be careful with me. You never know when my mic's going to go out. You do something like that. But no, I don't think the Warriors are going to come out and play. I think that despite the history, the Boston Garden is going to TD Boston Garden is going to reign supreme. Because of Tatum's up and down and inconsistencies, I feel that this team itself is more likely to have the bounce back than another team might.
Mm-hmm.
The thing I'm still waiting for in this series, and frankly for most of the entire playoffs, it is a game that is actually intriguing and goes down to the wire. Aside from the last game of the Miami-Boston series, And that was only because of a furious comeback by Miami to even bring it to the point where Butler had the chance to tie or take the lead with a 3 at the end. These games have all been blowouts.
Mhm.
They're always they're competitive series going back and forth, but it's 10 points this way, 20 points the other way every game. The lead changes. Like last night, you had the Warriors were up by I think 16 at one point, blew that lead, and Boston came back to take the lead briefly, and then the Warriors turned it back on again and ended up winning by 10.
I want to make a point about that with the blowouts. And I've talked about this on my show and during our NBA streams. I think the whole blowout term nowadays is a little bit kind of a fuzzy term because the NBA today, how heavy it is on the 3-point shot. If one team doesn't have it and the one team is even okay from the 3, it's going to be double digits for a game. And I know it seems like a blowout, but this isn't just a game of trading 2s and free throws. This is a game of trading 3s. And if you don't have it, you're trading 3s for 2s or or 0s if you're not making shots. So I think it's become a fuzzy number where it's almost misleading, or it's a misleading topic to talk about now, just the way the game is played and the emphasis on 3. What would be an 8-point lead in 2-point era is now 14, 15, 16-point leads in the 3-point era.
Mhm.
So individual games are blowouts, but we're still getting overall competitive series.
Right.
I totally agree, and I also think that as a NBA fan, even watching sometimes, you're like, oh, 14. Oh my goodness, like JD said, well, they came back from that. Well, a 16-point deficit, is it really 6? That's closer to 10 20 years ago. So you would say 10-point game's a game all the way
Right.
to the end. I remember it used to be, if we can get this lead down to 10 in the final 2 minutes, now it's like if I can get down to 13, 14 in the final 2 minutes, I can get my defense up. We're back in this game. I still think, to me, the greatest series I ever saw was Miami during LeBron's days against San Antonio 1.
Mhm.
And that series, every single game was
The
a blowout.
2013
Every game
finals?
was close until one team went on a run, and then the other team pulled its players. Like literally, like nope, our teams are too closely matched. We lost the run. They had the run first until Game 6, where that didn't happen. So I do think that the scores don't feel as close. They don't feel as tight. It's a mental thing as well as a reality thing because of the power of the 3. But that's why you have to look at a whole series. That's the joy of 7 games. Because over 7, usually you feel like the better team wins. Occasionally you're like, somehow that team squeaked by. Maybe, if just maybe, he had gone for a slam dunk and not gotten kicked off the team for the next year, the Sixers could have made it to the finals. Sorry. But
Yeah.
You and your Sixers forever, right?
yeah, F. Ben Simmons.
Yeah. Well, you all 3 of you have had that conversation multiple times. But at this point, we're going to switch out from the world of basketball into the world of golf. Yes, I'm aware that basically it's not live, it's 54, but we're running with it anyway because it may be the future of golf. Live and let die in the world of golf. We have in this case here, we're talking about in this case the new 54 style of golf. In this, we're looking at it from a perspective that I think Obi's got a few things he wanted to discuss in that. So, Mr. Obi Spencer, the floor is yours.
So, I'm not really giving my own points of view here. I am discussing, I had a conversation with a PGA insider, and I just want to let you know what he thought of it
So
while
we
he
know
was
it's a
watching
guy.
it.
Okay, we got part of it done. Okay.
What was that?
I was going to say, you're not going to announce who it is, but you did say, he, so we know it's a guy.
Yes.
Sources, trust me, bro.
He's a male PGA insider.
Fair enough.
He, first thing he said was, oh my goodness, the format is so much better with the shotgun start. He loved the scoring on the side. You knew exactly where everybody was, how everything was going. So he thought the product itself was definitively better.
Okay.
He feels that the PGA should be nervous, as 3 of the top influencers from the golf world have gone to it. So like I said, first part, of course, is the product's better in terms of watchability, not necessarily the guys playing, because of the spectrum of dudes who are there, and a lot of them are old. The other thing he had to say was more of I'll use the word political point of view about Saudi money being involved. And he's like, if you look at the guys on the top of all the PGA, whether it's the PGA Tour, the various clubs, the various majors, for these guys to poo-poo, these guys are the type of guys who would never poo-poo Saudi money. Like, for them to claim Saudi money, just look at their histories. I mean, the first woman into Augusta National was Condoleezza Rice. She has a vast history with Saudis and Saudi money.
And obviously, it's close tie to the U.S. government, too.
Yes, yeah, exactly. So we're talking big white-collar folks here. They're all going to have some level of dirt in their background. So however you might feel about that, it's hard for them to be pointing fingers. And $200 million. I mean, these guys are making more than Tiger ever made for one appearance. It's all going to, he feels, depend upon what happens at the majors. The PGA Tour itself is ecstatic to get to decide the last. By the time they go, they will just be doing what everyone else is doing. And he thinks that when it goes to England or wherever, Europe, we'll say, for the Open, the British Open, the Saudis want those guys to be allowed to play. The Saudis will probably find a way to sponsor that event enough to let those guys play. So he thinks this tour is going to survive. The PGA is going to have to figure out how to work around it. What it will look like, he's not positive of, but that was his takeaway, that it's going to work. The money's too much, as long as 54 can find a way to make money and keep making money.
Now, my question in this case, for those that have actually decided to go to 54, is it hurting their reputation? Are they considered to be in some ways scabs going in this direction from some of the people that have not done it?
That he didn't give me any info on, but we did see that Rory had something to say about it. So
Rory's quotes, Rory's shade was fantastic, especially the personal shot at Norman he threw in there.
I'm going to turn it over to JD, because I can see him smiling to cover the Rory stuff. But that was what I got from the insider and wanted to relay to our audience.
That's some good stuff there. Interesting point, because I think that the 54-hole format is absolutely worth exploring. This could be more of an AFL situation, maybe pushing the NFL to get some things to get that push the NFL to reform a little bit, than it is a USFL situation. The 80s USFL, where just they're only because the Saudis have so much money. They literally print money that they've taken from the rest of the world, with their oil reserves. The Blood Money Open number 54, as I call the tour. But anyway, I digress. So what happened was this,
by the way, is also available in Saudi Arabia.
And I will not be going to Saudi Arabia anytime soon. So
too long for my blood anyway. So, but anyway, sorry. Go ahead.
Anyway, so while the 54 was going on, back in North America, we had the RBC Open, which was, I believe, up in Canada, where Rory won the tournament and had lots of choice words for the folks that were not there. Especially, I believe it was Bryson DeChambeau, who had RBC as his title sponsor and bailed for 54 this week and was promptly dropped by RBC. And also this was Rory's 21st PGA Tour victory in his career. Greg Norman had 20. So he made sure to throw in a little dig of I got more victories than some people.
So
And Rory already, before he was 25, had more major titles than Greg Norman had his whole career. Greg Norman, of course, is more famous for blowing majors than actually winning them. So, but the one that's so surprising here, and I understand why it's gone the way that it has, is Phil Mickelson's heel turn.
Mm-hmm.
He's essentially, let's really drill down here. He went off of this whole everyman persona, is it like he's just like one of the guys at the Muni course. That has been his shtick for his whole career. 30 plus years he's been going on this. So this, all shucks everyman persona, he's just completely thrown that out the window, and any kind of fan goodwill is out the window with it. So, and he's getting very crotchety in his dealings with the media. Okay, getting older, happens. But just, realistic, but being upset over his well-documented gambling issues, and now basically taking blood money from the Saudis to get his cash flow in order. For somebody who says that, who no longer says that he's, one of us schlubs, you can't say that anymore. The everyman types do not get the amount of money thrown at him that he has. But I think where the PGA's biggest issue is not with the older established players, it's the younger players.
Mm-hmm.
You have somebody who is up and coming, trying to stay on in professional golf on the PGA. They don't even get paid for showing up at these tournaments. They go to a tournament, they miss the cup, they get nothing. So at least having a six figures guaranteed just for showing up. If you're a young up and coming golfer that does not have the established sponsorship of fan base or salary, that is very appealing and very hard to turn down.
Yeah,
I think is where the PGA will have big issues going forward if they don't rectify that somehow. Which I have read that there have been discussions about finally getting some kind of guaranteed salary, for PGA card holders, which is long overdue.
Yeah, I think if we take the political side of it out, and I think a lot of it is very simple to a lot of these guys. Look, the quotes coming from Rory, I think we should take with a grain of salt because he is in a position to say those quotes.
Yes.
Is he not one of the 5 or 10 faces of golf? So he has that platform to say that. And I'm going down the list of guys that have been committed, 48 players, forgetting Bryson and Justin Reed with the report. The majority of the list are not the top guys.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So it's these guys that, like you say, are trying to tread water and stay afloat with these tournaments. The minimum they get, last place, missed the cut, minimum they're getting is $125,000, which that's great.
One can see losing prime on that. Yes.
That's right. PGA, the minimum, if you could take a wild guess, 0.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of it's that simple.
They need to fix that.
Like I'm going down this list. Yeah, you have Phil, my guy Dustin Johnson. I mean, I'm looking at this list. It's a lot of the lower, mid tier. You have a Kevin Na, Ian Poulter, Lee Westwood. Guys that are kind of past their peak too.
You also have DeChambeau.
So it feels a lot
DeChambeau
like
and Reed
DeChambeau
have won majors
reported,
recently.
right.
Though.
It feels a
Graham
lot like
McDowell,
Bellator.
Charlie Schwartzel. So it's not a superstar-studded list.
Yeah,
I think we have to take that into account too. Like this isn't like everybody. This isn't like Tiger and Phil and Bubba and all these guys in their prime at the same time have all gone to this event.
Tiger was
It feels
rumored
a
to be
lot
offered
like
9 figures and
Bellator
turned
or
it
some
down.
other lower level fight organization in that way, where like you've won your championships, you're getting a little old, you probably shouldn't still be fighting, but we'll pay you more than UFC ever did for a title that's not as impressive.
Plus,
So
it's a
you take
lighter
it?
schedule.
Yeah, I'll take it.
You're playing
So-
every 2 weeks as opposed to every week.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot for the guys to go. I mean, I don't think it's the young guys they got to watch out for losing. It's the like Shambo to me is if I'm the PGA is the scariest guy to have lost.
Yeah.
Because this was a guy who could look to win multiple majors. Will Zalatoris, who hasn't won the major yet, that guy goes. He's a scary guy. I'm not worried about the guys who've already won a lot because Lee Westwood, Phil Mickelson. I know Phil won PGA last year, but he still feels over the hill. So
He's
it
still
is the
52.
younger up and coming guys who are like, I can win one week and miss the cut the next, or just be one of the 54 and be fine. I think I'll go be one of the 54. One side note, I think Phil gave up his everyman when he publicly announced that he was moving from one state to another. I think it was California to Florida to avoid taxes. The moment you can choose where you live to avoid taxes, you're not the everyman anymore when you have that choice. So he gave that up a while ago.
Can I just basically harken back to 2010? ESPN's The Decision.
First, yeah, I'm going to say the Phil Mickelson moving to a different state that's not popping the bubble as God, he's a god now. How dare he? Like
Right.
if I well,
No,
of
it's just
course,
he's not.
It's the whole
It's just
no
he's
state
not the
tax thing.
everyman. That's all.
The
I got
whole
no
no
problem
state
with you
tax
doing
in
it.
Florida thing has been used as justification for the existence of, as far as I'm concerned, too many professional sports teams in Florida that are unnecessary.
same with Texas.
And the only Texas as well. For like, do we really need 2 hockey teams in Florida and 2 baseball teams when nobody cares about either one? 3 football teams, but they're able to keep signing players. The Heat and the Magic, especially, most notably, with that no state tax dangling.
Yeah,
so,
but let's
That's
not
what
act
the
like the Heat.
Magic last few years.
Let's not act like the Heat just sit there in the Florida sun and just tan all day. They work their tails off.
exactly.
Yeah, you
every
realize
day.
the Magic,
and their
however,
continued
are
success.
a different story.
You just trash his Heat right there. Them's fighting words.
Yeah.
But
as I do think that the lack of state tax is the only
Orlando
appeal of
Mickey-
signing with the Magic.
Mickey Mouses. Yeah, okay. The
well,
Mickey Mice.
speaking of one of the Florida teams, by the way, funny thing that they're back. Tampa Bay Lightning are back in the Stanley Cup Finals. Big surprise to not too many people. I was trying to come up with some really kind of clever, wordplay or alliteration on this, something in the vein of weather versus weather. But in the end, I couldn't come up with squat. So basically, you're just going to have to deal with Colorado Avalanche versus Tampa Bay Lightning. Sorry about that. So, JD, take us away.
So with this series, this is a rare occurrence where you have 2 of the better teams in the league throughout the entire year meeting in the finals and living up to the hype. It's similar to the situation of the it's been compared a lot to the Oilers and the New York Islanders matchups in the 83 and 84 finals, where the established dynasty versus the young up-and-comers, it was a passing of the torch. We might have something similar here, where the Tampa has been, won 2 straight cups, going for a third. They had a President's Trophy season before their cup run. They made the finals back in 2015. So really, this is a 7-8 season run of consistency. Then you have the Avalanche, who for the past 4 years have been getting better and have done well in the regular season, but they've been flamed out in the playoffs. Now they finally have it together and are the highest scoring team in the league, playing against one of the Vezina Trophy contenders and one of the best goalies in the league in Vasilevsky for Tampa. Tampa also is no slouch on the offensive end themselves. The big glaring difference between these teams is the goaltending. Vasilevsky is one of the best in the game right now. And for Colorado, whether they go with Darcy Kemper or Francouz, depending on Kemper's injury status, personally, I think Francouz played better than Kemper in the last series. But can they they have essentially relied on outscoring all of their opponents so far in the playoffs. I don't know that they can do that against Tampa. Them being younger team while Tampa is a veteran team is definitely something to look out for. But also, I'm willing to write off the first 2 games of the Eastern Conference Finals against the Rangers, where the Rangers went up 2-0. I'm willing to put that to rust on Vasilevsky's part, because once he got going and once the Lightning got going, the Rangers didn't score jack. I mean, Igor let up a few weak 5-hole goals for the Rangers. He allowed, I think, something like 14 goals in the 5-hole, more than any other team in the playoffs combined. But you're not winning many games if you're not scoring, and the Rangers just weren't scoring. And the injuries and the long series were starting to take their toll, and by the end of Game 6, you could tell the Rangers were just out of gas. And Tampa looks to be just coming into form.
Well, that doesn't surprise a lot of people anyway. I mean, they had 2 straight Game 7s.
Right.
Sooner or later, that's going to take its toll on you.
Yeah, and it definitely did take its toll on the Rangers towards the end of that series. Tampa looks like they're just coming into form. They got their rest in the middle of the playoffs when they swept the Panthers and had the extended break between the second and third rounds. So this is a very even matchup on paper on the offensive end. Even the defense is comparable for both teams, but the goaltending is night and day with an advantage to Tampa here. The Avalanche will not go quietly, and I could see it going the other way. I just don't think that the Avalanche are going to be able to just outscore everybody. That's gotten them to this point in the regular season in the playoffs. They're not going to be able to do that with Tampa. And so I'm thinking Lightning in 7.
There. Brandon, you have anything on that?
Yeah, and everything pretty much you said, I'm right in line with the rust thing with Tampa in the first 2 games to come off the sweep in the second round. The more that series went on, the more evident that became. And I think the Lightning took advantage of the more high pressure situations late in that series. I said the magic number for Igor to hold the Lightning to was 2, and we saw later in that series where the goals were upwards of 2, and the Rangers weren't able to keep up with that. And I do think with the goaltending in this series coming up, it is all in Vasilevsky's corner. But I do think there were some aspects of the Rangers series where they kind of showed some kinks in his armor that I think the Avalanche could take advantage of. I think offensively they have that much firepower, but to go goaltending to goaltending, that's really from in hockey, that's what it comes down to, winning cups. And for Lightning to sustain a dynasty is goaltending. And I'm right in line with you, JD. Lightning in 7.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to go Lightning in 5.
Ooh.
Because I think that, this has nothing to do with anything I know about hockey other than what you two have just told me, which is that after a quick sweep, you're going to come in rusty. And you're going to come in rusty against, in this case, the Avalanche are going to come in rusty against a much better goaltender. And so you're going to have that early pressure of having the rusty team, losing a few games where maybe you're not scoring, and then the pressure's on that offense and the goalie's feeling good. So I like Tampa Bay 5 or 6 games. I don't think it's even going to go to 7. So I think they're going to get the early wins from rust and just put the Avalanche and the goaltending on the Avalanche on their heels. And I think that's going to be the big difference.
The only thing I'm going to say in this case, and I'm pretty close to you guys on this, but I want to go 6 and split the difference right down the middle. You guys both said 7. I think 6 winning a series in 6 is good because it gives you a little bit of energy to recharge. But like you said, when you sweep a series, you come out of the gate a little rusty. You saw what happened with Tampa there, where Ranger Nation got off to a massive start. So you have to concern yourself a little bit when you're Colorado that way. But when you win in 6, you get just enough energy back that you still can maintain a groove and not actually at the same time get burned out. So I think this is a stronger team. I think this is a more confident team. This is your king of the 2020s right now. And I'm not going to dethrone them just yet. Brandon?
You to be clear, you're going Tampa in 6.
Yes.
Okay.
So we're all taking Tampa, just some of us more aggressively than others.
So.
And the guy who knows the least about hockey is going with the shortest. So that's not what you should follow, folks.
So basically, you're going to root for the Phoenix Coyotes in this case, right?
No, I know the teams that are playing, Scott.
Okay.
The Florida Panthers.
Yeah. And the Colorado Rockies, the one team that, as we established last week, is not in fact owned by the Walton families of Walmart.
Right.
And yes, by the way, I did correct the typo on there. Thank you for letting me know. The spelling education that came from Waldock High School education. Anyway, so I think we're all in agreement right now. Tampa ends up taking this. So the big question is it going to be 5? Is it going to be 6? Is it going to be 7? So for bragging rights, we'll probably forget, but I'll try to remember.
Now that I see how home ice is, I'm modifying my prediction to 6. Because game 7 would actually be in Colorado. So I think they close it out in Tampa.
So
I thought
case,
Tampa had home ice, but Colorado does.
So if we're going to split the difference there, goal differential, let's see, 6 goals. I'm going to say that Tampa's going to score 25 in the 6 games.
I'm going to say Tampa's going to score more goals in more games than Colorado does.
So you're going to say that in more of those games, Colorado will score less points or less goals than Tampa.
Yes.
I think
at a bare minimum of 4 times, a total of 4 times they're going to score.
You got it.
I think Tampa.
What's the over under on that?
Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
I think Tampa has a chance to put up more goals than Draymond puts up points in the total NBA Finals.
God, I had to start this off with Draymond because I knew you went on this rant the other day about him. Stephen A. went off on a massive rant the other day, and the fact that that stuff that happened last night, I'm just like, you know what? I'm turning this over to you on this one. Just go. So
Draymond had 8 points, and Colorado scored 8 goals in Game 1 of the Western Conference Finals. So it is possible. It's very possible.
All right, so we got about 10-ish minutes left at this point. So I want to turn this over a little bit. I want to talk to you guys about something a little different in this case. Let's switch over to the world of Major League Baseball because we got to give some props in here. Brandon, I'm sorry. Your lead is not what it used to be anymore in Met Nation. The Braves are running. The Phillies are running. The Phillies are running since they fired Joe Girardi, which is funny in its own right. Are you worried at all?
No.
Okay.
This road test, this road trip, I just think it's a timing thing. They come back home for the most part now for the next couple weeks, and they have a easier. I don't want to say an easier schedule, but the schedule lightens up a little bit. I said from this West Coast trip between the Dodgers, Padres, and Angels series, if you could go 5-5 at the very least, and kind of do that, which is exactly what they did, coming off a 6 game win, homestand, sweeping the Phillies and the Nationals. So they did exactly what I wanted them to do. I just didn't expect the Braves and the Phillies to kind of play the way they're playing, with the Braves just on an absolute tear to show why they were the defending champs. Acuna having a terrific bounce back season. I just think the Mets are they're okay. I'm not worried, but this 9-game lead has now come to 6.
Mm-hmm.
5.
The Mets.
Actually, it's
5, yeah.
Yeah, so the Mets are 5 now. So the Mets open up a series tonight against the Brewers, who have been struggling as of late. So I just think the Mets have to stay their course. If they could, I'm not asking for a 10, 12, 15 game win streak, but if you could knock off 7, 8, 9 in a row, and continue just to win series, you get your pitchers back, you get everyone back. I think we're A-okay come postseason play.
I think it's worth noting that the Mets have maintained this lead with their 2 best starters out. And the Braves, while on this hot streak, they did lose Albies to a major injury. So that could be an issue. Both of these teams, the Braves and the Phillies, I think that the Braves will stay hot but come down to earth a little bit. The Phillies, I don't think, sustain this. I do not see them sustaining this level of success for the rest of the season. Could Atlanta hang with the Mets as the season goes on? I think so. They are the defending world champs. But should the Mets be panicking right now? No, especially not with a down Milwaukee team and a always down Marlins team coming up on this homestand. They went 500 on the West Coast trip, which is always tough. So they should be fine.
Now, as far as the Phillies, go ahead.
No, I was going to say make the 500 point. You split with the Dodgers. You lost 2 of 3 to the Padres, but then won 2 out of 3 against the Angels. So it's 500. With the Padres series, the first game, Marte leaves with an injury. Pete Alonso gets hit in the hand. So I just like to think that they needed to get our 2 best players out of the lineup to win that series. So that's fine. But joking aside, no, they did exactly what they needed to do. And yeah, I think the Braves can contend. But I think the Mets just steady the course, steady the ship, and they should be A-okay.
Are you guys surprised at all that Anaheim axed Joe Madden?
Slightly.
I'm surprised because of the clout that Madden has with the Angels organization. If it was any Joe Schmo manager, then it would not be surprising. But Joe Madden worked for the Angels as a scout and a coach, and I believe as a player for over 20 years. His first time around with the Angels organization. He filled in as interim manager for previous managers. I believe after Terry Collins resigned in '99, that Madden was the interim manager for the rest of the year. He only went to Tampa to get a manager job because Socha was blocking him.
And how many terrible seasons did he last through LA?
Wow.
Yeah. So, Joe Madden, just because of who Joe Madden is, it's surprising. But as any old manager on a 14-game losing streak with a team that had overachieved and then just absolutely went down the tubes, that in itself is inspiring. It's surprising, But
I think Joe Madden's biggest problem was his early shocking success, and then when you have that, this is a good team, and then the team comes back down to what the team is, and it must not just be the law of small numbers working incorrect, just a strange streak. No, it must be that the manager did something different. No, this is a team that has 2 of the best players in baseball, if not the 2 best players in baseball, and can't get its act together.
And they have 23 other scrubs around them.
Yeah, we talk about the embarrassing franchises. Yeah, this is just something that baseball has always had as a problem and will continue to have as a problem of how you're going to get your two of the best players and you're only going to get to see them at the All-Star game, which is why the baseball is the only All-Star game worth watching, right? It's the only time you get to see some of their great players because they don't make the playoffs.
Yeah, and then they only play 1 inning.
Yeah. The Angels are in this year, maybe just this year, the Angels and the Phillies are like in these same exact situations. From managers to roster construction to contract and salary payouts, they're in the same boat. They're very star-studded offensively. Pitching, can they don't care about pitching. Yeah, and it's just it's disappointing. It really is. And are they what they were in the beginning of the season? No. Are they a 14 in a row lost team? All season? Obviously not. They're obviously somewhere in the middle, which means they're 500 to bordering around that 500 team, which again, for that level of talent, is disappointing.
So I'm going to bring this back around to the Mets, which is why when a team loses 14 in a row, it's probably not who they are. And when a team wins 10 in a row or 9 out of 10 because after they fire the manager, it's probably not who they are either. So the Mets seem to be who they are, 640 team-ish.
Mhm.
So those other teams are going to have to prove to be 640 teams with a few more long win streaks.
And it's also worth noting that even with the Phillies on a 10-game win streak, they're still only a game over 500. Like, they were so far under that this win streak brought them back to 500.
And you
Are
get
they
them,
a 500 team? Probably, but 500 isn't going to cut it in a division with the Mets and the Braves.
and yet conversely, the Boston Red Sox are 3 games over 500 after their atrocious start, but you can't count out the Red Sox at all, even
Right.
at the winning.
And this is why the playoff expansion is a joke, because you're going to see there's going to be below 500 wild card team. If not this year, it will happen very soon.
Well, we had it during COVID, but that's a little different. I'll grant you that.
We can write off the 60 game joke season as an anomaly in that regard. But another way to bring this back around to the Mets is that this reminds me of the Angels. Remind me of the Mets team. I believe it was 2018 that nobody expected anything of, and they got off to a hot start and started something like 17-5, and then lost 12, and then lost 10 out of 12, and you never heard from them again. That's but nobody expected anything of them coming into that season. Then they got off to a hot start and then hit the skids. That's exactly what the Angels are doing now. Just the Mets didn't have those high priced contracts at the time.
And before Uncle Stevie bought the team.
Right.
Exactly. Before the dark times, before the Steve. So,
The dark times before the season.
No, those were right in the middle of the dark times.
Those were the darkest of dark times, because that season got us all like, oh wow, we caught lightning in a bottle of sand. It's just sand.
J.K. lols. So.
That's why I've restrained my excitement about the Mets this season.
Ever since.
Although I'm starting to come around a bit, but I need to see a bigger sample size.
Scratching out 500 on a West Coast trip when your games end at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, that's, you give credit where it's due there. They had to fight and battle and scratch to be able to get back to 500, but you take what you can get there.
Yeah.
Anyway, we got about 2 minutes left. Any final thoughts from you guys?
Pete Alonso is going to be in the home run derby.
Again.
Yep. Book it. 3-time defending champ.
Is that still making more for home run derby than he does for his contract?
It depends how the arbitration bonus pool works.
He's having a terrific season.
He's going to get paid, though.
Yeah. Well, the whole point of the pre-arbitration bonus pool sticking point in the lockout was for the players like Alonso.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Or when Aaron Judge was making barely over $500,000 a year to crank out 50 home runs a year. Yeah. Judge makes $17 million this year, but boy, is he going to get paid next year. Anyway,
and he never
Alonso
stays through a full
18
season.
home runs.
That is going to be a terrible contract for whoever signs him.
Yeah,
Alonso has 18 home runs, 57 RBIs. He's batting .284, and we're not even halfway through June. He's having a terrific season. So let's cut this Alonso slander for good.
What are you talking about? We're talking about how much they pay him. This isn't slander. This is how little they pay him versus he has to
he's
make money.
Right? Yeah, Stevie going to back up that Brinks truck.
Yeah. All right, so we're going to make basically the truck noises at some point, probably next show, and we talk a little more about that. There we go.
I'm waiting for the Yankees to go into a skid a little bit. That skid's coming.
The Yankees started off a little slow. They did. If you forget the first week of the season, there was a lot of questions, and then they're actually good. All right, but there was
a little bit.
All right, that's going to do it. I'll be back at 7 o'clock for Tales from the Film Set. We're talking Jurassic World Dominion. We're talking Doctor Who with Doogie Howser, by the way, and also maybe a little Dragon Ball superhero, too. Till next time, Scott, Brandon, JD, Obi, take care. Be awesome.